Fishing is fun, but hooking is the only way. We're gonna show you how to catch some fish today.
So we're out here fishing in these big flats in like 1 to 3 feet of water, throwing spinnerbaits and chatterbaits, and look what we got. See, we're in here, see all the grass clumps. So these fish will just sit in these little slots right here, and as you bring your lure by, the current's going pretty good, it's still going out. You can see the weed down here bending over this way, so the tide's going out. So those fish will sit there facing that way in the current. You just bring your bait right to them. Nice fish. Caught her in about 2 feet of water on a chatterbait. I don't think that fish has spawned out yet. Crazy. Oh.
Hey Alan, it is the dog days of summer. We've had 100-degree weather like 10 days in a row. The water temperature is over 75 degrees everywhere we go in the Delta, and it's windy as heck.
Yeah, it gets tough. It's always like this time of the year.
How are we going to catch fish today?
It's a little bit more difficult, and you know, we're going to show you guys actually what I do. I come out and I look for big flat areas, and I want to fish current. And you want to fish big, massive weed beds that have broken up weeds. You don't want the solid weed walls and stuff. You want patches.
Why do you want to be on the weed beds? Why don't we just go up to the bank?
Because those fish are sitting out in the current. So most of the time when you're on the bank, usually on high tide, I might move to the shore this time of year, but when the water drops out a little bit and the grass starts showing, I guarantee you those fish are way offshore and in the grass.
Is it cooler there? They're trying to get more oxygen. Why are they in the weed beds?
Because of the current. So you got more water flowing and it gives them a lot more oxygen. And to me, it's easier for me to know where the fish are, because fish, in order to stay still, they have to look into the current. So you have so I know which weed bed. These weed beds are all underwater, but they will start showing, and that's when it gets good. So I can just pick targets and then cast them. That's why I always catch 4 times more than you.
It's not because you're in front of the boat looking at back to target?
No.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
It might help.
So now, do the different tide times matter? High tide or low tide, minus tide?
I found that in the grass, you want to fish the outgoing tide. So you want the water, on the outgoing tide, it's moving as fastest. So you want to be, you know, the water temperature is 75, 76 degrees, and it's a little warm. So you want to be somewhere where those fish are going to be comfortable. So you want that water flowing really good. So you got to fish in outgoing tides, and you only need 2 lures. And one's a spinnerbait and one's a chatterbait. So we're out here in this big weed flat. It probably goes across maybe 100 yards or more, maybe further. We're right on the top of it. You're only in like 2 feet of water at the most, and that's where these fish are. They're in that current. And they're right up here, up tight. They cruise around on these flats. And you know, there's times when you get 3 people on a boat, you can get triple hookups. And a little wind is always good. I'd rather have it windy than dead calm. The fish seem to move in a little shallower when the wind's blowing, because it creates a ripple on the top of the surface and it doesn't hurt their eyes.
So Alan, when you talked about going in a current, so everything looks pretty currenty around here, going into the grass and where 2 parts of the river are intersecting. How do you know which part of the current the fish are more likely to be in?
It doesn't matter where you're at in a delta. If you're fishing an outgoing tide, the water is going to go straight toward San Francisco Bay. So it goes that way. Incoming, it'll turn around and come inside and it'll blow you back this way. So outgoing will always head out, and it's easier just to go and get something on your phone like a tide app. I use Tide Graph, and then I can put the day, the area I'm at. It tells me what time the tide's going. So I basically know. And then I go by, you know, when we're coming out here, you see me get real close to those poles, because I look and see which way the water's going, so I can tell which, you know, if I'm, because the tides are off. So if you get the tide app, you can look at a tide 20 years from now. So it's, you know, predated, but if you don't know how much rain falls, so sometimes it changes up to 2 hours.
She always looking at the weeds. Why is that?
So I look at the weeds and make sure, so if I see them bent this way, then I know the water's going that way. So I know the fish have to look this way to stay straight. And then I position the boat and I cast across
And
those points.
is there ever too much current?
Nope.
So even the strongest current, you still want to position your boat and cast into those weeds?
Yep. So like, you see all these little patches. So like, if you were fishing a lake and you go to a point, right? You go to the corner, that's probably one of the obvious places where they're gonna be. So you can see all the points on the lake. Here on the delta, when I'm fishing these grass beds, there's hundreds of those points. And I just take each one and break it up and see the little clump. That would be like a point. So, you know, I have many options to hit when I'm going. That's why I cast this way, cast that way, cast that way. Some of the things I haven't even told you about.
What?
So that's why I catch a lot more fish
That's why I
than you.
keep coming on the boat.
Can't tell you everything. Shoot, you take my channel over.
I doubt it. Watch out.
Yeah. Which way the weeds are folded over. So those fish have to look into the current, and they're going to use all these little points and areas here where you see the grass as ambush points.
As now demonstrated by Jennifer.
She's got a big old smirk on her face today.
She has the smile of success. Now I've got my spinnerbait here, and I'm using chartreuse because the water's a little bit stained. What do you recommend?
Usually I use a chartreuse and white on the blade because you want to imitate, you know, like a shad. And a lot of times those fish, they're sitting on those weed clumps. You bring your spinnerbait by and you want to bring it toward them in their face, and bam, I mean, they just explode on that thing.
And do you recommend like a Colorado blade? Like I have 2 Colorados or 2 willows, or a Colorado and willow?
Water that is fairly stained, then I would use the Colorado because of the thumping. And then if you're fishing clearer water, then I go to the willows. So there's no vibration on the willow leaf, but there's twice as much flash. So anything where I could see down 2 feet, I'm gonna use 2 willows. And if it's less than a foot of visibility, I go the Colorado. So those are your choices. And I use 3/8 to a half, depending on how much wind and current you have.
And we're also doing something a little different. Normally I put a trailer on, but I haven't used a trailer at all today, and we've been catching fish.
Usually when I'm fishing for these kind of fish, it's more of a, they're sitting out there on one of those clumps on the edge, waiting to ambush something to come by. So I rather keep my baits short so they don't miss it as much.
Yeah.
Where then if I'm fishing more open water, then I'll put a trailer on my baits.
We don't get short strikes when you don't have a trailer.
No, they usually eat this thing.
It was ladies' day today, huh, Jennifer?
Yeah, right.
2 big ones.
Where'd you find them?
In the weeds.
It was in the current?
Yep. In the current and the weeds.
Where'd you get them on?
Spinnerbait. And then the chatterbaits are a little different. You have a white one on.
Yeah.
And that one I would use, you know, in good visibility of water. Then in the more stained water, I go to the black. One of the things I learned a long time ago is these weed beds are home to the crawdads. So we're catching bass and stripers. So there's both species of fish that are feeding in here. And I chose to go with the crawdad patterns. So I use something that imitates the crawdad, is red or orange, and then dark on the top. And there's another thing about when I use these things that I really haven't told a lot in the past, is that crawdads, if you watch them in water, remember the other day we were going, I saw that crawdad in water and it went like, boot. Bloop.
Yeah, it was real interesting because you told me when you were a kid that, you know, you used to go around with your friends playing
Frogging.
around.
I go frogging.
Frogging and looking at crawdads,
Yeah.
and you said, and that's actually how you learned how the bass are holding, is by seeing how the crawdads and basically
Always
how the
said
frogs
that,
act.
you know, if you want to go after something, study what they eat. So crawdads live in these big grass beds, and as the other day, like I was mentioning, a crawdad will fold his back tail and kick, and that's how it promotes. So when it propels, it goes like this. You know, it doesn't just swim like a minnow. It's bouncing. That's why I always jerk my rod tips when I'm bringing it in, because it's making my bait look like it's real.
And another thing you had always told me, and it really hit home when I finally actually saw a crawdad doing it, is you said that always skim over the weed tops, you know, and don't be dropping in real deep, just kind of like let it go on the weed tops like that. And the other day we were in Prospect, and there it was, just going right over the weed tops, and it was like, wow, it's exactly like you described.
Just like your lure. You want to
just
try
scooting
to
on top.
Yep, they scoot. They don't swim. They fan and coat that tail, and it squirts them along, and they go at it erratic.
So it's real important to be able to just feel it ticking onto the weed tops.
Oh yeah, very important. That's why I use braid. You can always see me down here with braid. And then I use a short piece from here to here, a 25-pound test fluorocarbon.
Why you use such a heavy fluorocarbon?
Because it keeps it stiff and it keeps it straight, so when I pop it, it doesn't stretch. And usually visibility, but I do use this little buffer leader here for reasons besides just so the fish can't see it. It makes your lure work a lot better than having braid right to the bait, because braid is super limp and this is stiff, so I'm just stiffening up my presentation to my bait.
And also, if you get entangled in the weeds or anything, you can get out real easy with 25 pounds.
Just rip it right out.
So one reason too that you like to use these type of baits versus something like a Senko or a brush hog is, like you just mentioned, you're covering so many points. You want to cover a lot of water.
Yeah, using dead sticking baits like that, it takes forever. And these fish are there to go eat, so they're going to attack whatever bounces in front of them. So, you know, you want to, and choosing colors is all about water color. That's how I go about picking up. I have two chatterbaits here that are real close. This one's a little bit more orangey, so I tend to use this one if I'm fishing in a little bit clearer water than that one there. So I'll pick it, if I can see just a little bit clearer, I'll switch.
Yeah, this one's got a little bit darker profile.
Yep.
And a salad, but
Yes,
it has a little bit darker profile.
It's darker. In the water, it'll show darker. So when I'm fishing in staying water, I'll pick that bait up.
Now, we're fishing for what species with this technique?
Bass and stripers. You know how many stripers we've caught on chatterbaits. I mean, we just kill them on chatterbaits. And all they are is they're in here feeding just like the bass, and they're eating crawdads. That's their main diet. You know how many fish do you catch and you look down their throat and you see the pinchers coming out of their throat, right? So.
And one thing we like to do too is when I get my fish and you get your fish, you know, we always cut the bellies open and see what the color of those crawdads are, and that actually will determine the next day color crawdad, next day color chatterbait I'll tie on.
Yep, sometimes it makes a big difference in there with clarity of water. All these little things that we're showing you guys, all these little tricks that you do, we put all these little ones together and it makes you a lot better than the next guy.
But I would say also for the trailers, we did one on the different trailers, and if we're going for bass, we might use this thicker, more bulkier profile, the Zaco trailer, but we'll use thinner ones and with more action like the Big Bites Kamikaze.
Yep.
For if you're going for stripers. So that's one way you can fine tune your targeting your species. Wow, that ended up being a great day, hot as could be. So
and you got whooped again.
Oh, you have heat stroke again? You okay?
You all know.
So you know, you had said something earlier about you're in the shallows like 2 feet of water, but sometimes we were in some areas and some of the cuts that were more like 12, 15 feet of water. How do you work your chatterbait and spinnerbait differently? Or do you let it drop to the bottom, or they still stay shallow?
No, usually when I'm doing this kind of fishing on these flats, if I'm on the edge and it's like over 5 feet deep, I just run down the side and then I go in the grass.
Okay, so you don't
I
never
don't
really
fish
fishing that deep.
No.
Yeah.
We're fishing in 1 to 3 feet of water.
And do you find that the bass and stripers, are they still real aggressive during the summer?
Yeah, they're super aggressive. They're in this current. They're getting plenty of oxygen, and they're in here to eat.
I mean, we felt them slam it.
Oh yeah, they
slam and
smash
go
it.
many times.
Yeah, they smash it.
Yeah.
And how they hit yours, you yank, set the hook 10 times, and it fall off.
just a couple of times.
Of course, they're aggressive.
And how long can you do this? Is it through the whole summer?
Through
Is there a
the
certain
summer,
temperature cut
as long
off?
as water temperatures in it above 70 degrees, you could probably do it all
70. And
all
then
summer.
After 70, do they change? Where do they
Yeah,
go?
then they change. They'll make their moves, and it starts cooling off. You know, you get into the fall, then I go a little deeper, and I start keying on wood.
Oh, okay. So
That's another video.
yeah, that'd be another video. Actually, we talked a lot about chatterbaits in this video, and we did a video last year on chatterbait and bladed jigs and how to fish them in the weeds in high and low tide, and specifically for the delta. So if you want to know more about chatterbaits and more on finesse and details, go check out that video. I'll put it up here on our left-hand corner, and it'll be at the end of the video on the end screen.
Yeah, so basically, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and all those videos that we did before on chatterbaits, especially in the Delta, relates to grass. So, you know, this today we showed more. We came in all these big flats. This big flat's massive. It's, you know, 100 yards wide and 500 yards long, and we caught a lot of fish.
Oh, I wanted to ask you something you said earlier. You talked about don't just go to one area that has a big long clump of weeds. If you can see patchy clumps of weeds with bare spot in between, it's better. Why is that?
Yeah, I think it gives the fish more freedom, more movement. They're not, you know, when you get something like a wall, then the current goes around it totally different.
Oh,
Or
okay.
do you notice all these little patches here and there? So the current's going around it, and there's like, you're fishing a point, but there's hundreds of them. So there's a lot more opportunity when it's broken up.
And when you get bit, are they more around the top of the weeds, on underneath the weeds, or on the sides?
Well, you see me catch fish all day. You tell them. Of course, they're on the sides. So the fish will use that clump of weed as an ambush point. They always have to be facing into the current, and then you bring it across them and bam. You know, they're there to eat. So they're very aggressive.
And I think these clump of weeds also why they bite so aggressively, because they're just darting out and grabbing. It's not like they're sitting, you know, in grass where
there's
they're
clumps
more
all over, right?
softer bites.
Yeah, so they're in here to eat. Something goes by, they just jump out and grab it.
Yeah, and the stripers and bass are all mixed up
Could
together.
be stripers, could be bad. You don't know what you catch. So it's a lot of fun. So out here striper fishing, and even the bass are here feeding red chatterbait. So if you like this video, hit the like. Please subscribe because it'll help the channel out a lot. If you want to leave me a comment, click that button on the bottom and I'll get back within 2 or 3 days. And then if you want her to answer the question, just address it to her.
I'm going to put a playlist at the end with all of our chatterbait videos. You might want to check those out, and we'll be coming up with a spinnerbait video pretty soon.
Yep, that's next.
So thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our videos, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, focus right here. Look.
No, don't break the camera.
Fishing is fun, but hooking is the only way. We're gonna show you how to catch some fish today.